know how many winners I know that talk about somebody else's luck?
Gary, thanks for being on Creator Lab. I appreciate it. We first spoke about 9 years ago, pre-Crush It.
My mom is so the bedrock. You know, I have a lot of her personality, a lot of things that I think have allowed me to be on this podcast today, or people to care about what I have to say, has to do with my mom. You know, I spent every day of my life with her. We didn't travel that much. I didn't travel. I didn't go to sleepaway camp. Like, I spent every day of my life with her for the first 18 years of my life. I love her tremendously. She's instrumental in the confidence and bravado that I have, but she's equally instrumental in the humility and kindness and the things that I think make me palpable. You know, to be very frank, because I do have a lot of gusto and energy and belief and, you know, cockiness and bravado, and so I cherish my mother.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear, I mean, how old do you think you are in that picture, the first one?
In the first one, I have a very good read on this. I am probably 9 years old there.
So that was post Lemonade Stand.
This is post Lemonade Stand.
What about before that? I mean, I know that's super young, you might not remember much, but what people told you, were you always like, where you are now?
My mom has a good story. Yeah, so that's a very good question to start getting some stuff out of me. I got a story that I don't think even D-Rock knows. When we first moved to America in Queens, one of the things my mom always told me as a kid was, I'm 3.5, 4 years old, we would go outside and all the kind of 80-year-old Russian old men would sit kind of on the benches and play chess and drink vodka and just kind of bullshit. And I would come and just hold court. Like, roll up on them and like do a meetup, you know, like just like entertain them. The way my mom tells the story is I would say, hey Vladze, как дела? You know, I would like talk to them I would call them by their first name and be like, yo bro, what's up? As a 4-year-old. So, you know, I wasn't selling when I was 4 and 5 or so, but I was definitely trying and yearning for attention. And I do that today.
That's still there.
Yeah, I think I trade attention. I want attention because A, I like the feeling. B, I know what to do with it. C, I think I'm coming from a good place. Like, one of the big reasons I create so much content is I just prefer them watch me versus all these hucksters out there that I know are completely full of shit. I don't know, like, you know, so yes, that, you know, selling is about attention. You can't sell somebody something until you have their attention. Whether that's charity water and a donation, or whether that's a pair of sneakers or a bottle of wine or a book, and so attention is the asset that you must fight for. Attention is the asset that you must fight for to even have a prayer of pulling off a sale.
I'm going to show you Exhibit B.
Yes.
Well, this is one of your Instagram posts around luck. And you've talked a lot about luck, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but could you just share for people who might not have heard your opinions on quote-unquote luck, or seen this Instagram post in particular?
So the post says, keep that luck shit in your pocket. So here's my thing. Do I believe in luck? Yes, I do actually, ironically, given that statement. And what I mean by luck is, it's less about luck and it's more about, do I believe there are tons of things that happen that are not in your control? Yes. I was born in the Soviet Union. Did I sneak out of Soviet Russian? No. Russia made a trade with America and Israel to let some Jews out of Russia, and I was part of that, and I was born 20 years after my parents, so I didn't have to live my first 25 years, 22 years in Russia. I got to live only 3 years there, and that was lucky. But a lot of people left Russia then that haven't achieved what I've had or did what we did. And so to me, the big thing with that Instagram post and the way I described it and the way I talk about it is, whether it's luck, whether it's child abuse, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's being born into a rich parent, whether it's being gorgeous, whether it's being able to sing, everybody has all these things that they talk about to why yes or why not something has happened. I am just trying to eliminate excuses. Like, I don't think you can win in your life if you say, well, Gary got lucky. His dad had a liquor store and he gave him a liquor store. Because what you don't realize is I didn't get the liquor store. I don't own the liquor store. I built my dad's liquor store for him and gave up the first 12, 13 years of my career. Yeah. Like, you don't know somebody else's truths. And so if you're the kind of player that thinks somebody else has it better than you, when you do not realize that you don't know half the story, and even if the story's true, there's a million people that have it better than me. If I spent a second on that, I wouldn't be spending that second on how am I going to get to where I want to get to. Yeah. I just think that there's a bunch of complaining and loser mentality out there, and I'm trying to eliminate it because it's the only prayer you have to be successful.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that makes sense to most people in that there are things out of your control, but there are some things in your control, and you're saying maximize what you do have in your control.
Do you know how many winners I've heard talk about luck?
Yeah. None.
And I mean about other people. It's very easy to defend yourself against luck. Yeah. I'm not lucky, I worked my ass off. Cool, cool, cool. No. I mean, do you know how many winners I know that talk about somebody else's luck?
None.
Goose egg.
Some of those people are in situations where, on the flip side, you know, if you've done well for yourself and you've made the most of your situation, that's phenomenal. But on the flip side, I also have got to the point where I also think where someone is in a terrible position, maybe that wasn't necessarily all their fault.
100%. Dude, do you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually am going to say something pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I take no credit for my success. I think I'm a product of my parents and my environment.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, like, what? What can I say that wasn't the fact that my mom and dad had sex to make me? What, I'm charismatic? Yeah. Sounds like them to me.
Yeah, it is.
What, I have work ethic? Taught behavior. My parents worked their fucking faces off. Like, what do I have? Like, I don't know, like, it's easy for me to stay grounded. In the same way that my friend Chris Stokes, who's in jail for the rest of his life, grew up in a shitty place in New Jersey, fucking grew up in the ghetto, fucking had a tough parent situation, fucking stole my Sega Genesis to pay for an abortion, like, and he was my boy. That was the animal that he was. That was the environment he came from. So I get it, sure. Why do you think this is all happening? I actually take zero credit. When I brag about myself, I'm trying to put my parents on. I'm trying to put America on. I'm trying to put New Jersey on.
Get you.
You know?
Yeah.
So hell yeah, I'm totally with you. I think about it every day. It's why I'm not fancy. If I thought I was special, I'd be a dick face.
Yeah, I get it.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
Now, I love the game.
Yeah.
So you know who I am? I'm like a trash talker in basketball, right?
Yeah, I know.
You know, like I play.
Guys,
right. I trash talk in basketball, and I live my life that way. Like, I'm competitive. Like, I want to tell. I'm telling everybody on my vlog right now, looking right at you, YouTube. I'm gonna beat you. You're watching me.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm not watching you. I've already won.
Yeah. So.
And you know what just happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, hundreds of people watching my vlog are like, fuck this, and just stopped playing that video. I'm not in this for me to get more numbers or more that. I'm gonna get mine. My man, I won before I ever started the journey of this Gary Vee thing.
Yeah.
I'd already been successful from the business side.
Yeah.
This is now about legacy.
We're gonna get on to legacy.
Go ahead.
Definitely, no, but I appreciate the thoughts there. And the reason I brought it up was because I think, so a little bit of background on me, when I was quite young, not exactly like you, but from 11, 12 years old, I was selling stuff at school, SIM cards, hats, all sorts of stuff. Set up a very small business at 16, went to college, ended up going to Google at 21 years old. So all sorts of different stuff. And then about 6 months ago, I left and I joined Charity Water, which you've been involved with for a long time.
Yes.
With Scott. I actually met Scott through this podcast, which is pretty cool. And the reason I brought it up was because I went through my own personal journey to make that move. And the reason I made that move was because I had this switch in my head where I realized, of course there are people that are less fortunate, but I was always just so stuck in my own way and my own mind, like I'm going to make the most of my own life. that I kind of ignored
everybody else.
Everyone else was going around me. So
my man, you know, it's interesting. I get it. Listen, this is not a good use of my time financially.
Yeah.
And when I mean this, I don't mean your podcast.
Yeah.
I mean this podcast,
yeah.
D-Rock, the whole Gary Vee thing, books, speeches.
Yeah.
It's not a good use of my financial time. If I had taken all that energy and all that time and put it into starting a business, selling something, I would have made a lot more money.
Yeah.
Right? You're right?
Yeah,
That's not super complicated.
Yeah.
When I tell you, getting the 40 to 700 emails I get each week of I was homeless, I was abused, I was spoiled, rich kid, whatever it starts with, it ends with I'm happy, I'm winning because of something you said, because of one snap, because of one moment, because of one time you yelled at me at camp. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's
what, replace that.
That's right. And so for me, I think I've been doing it right because I'm kind of doing the selfish and selfless thing in parallel. Not that works for me.
Yeah.
For some people, they got to go and do, then do right.
Yeah.
I like hearing your story. I think that's the more cliche, more normal play.
Yeah.
People go I've been trying to hack to do both in parallel.
Yeah. I get you. In that same vein, you kind of you mentioned success.
Yeah.
And you mentioned kind of long-term legacy.
Yes.
I heard you mention once, so you asked someone, I think it was an employee, you said, what if this was your last Thursday, or Monday in that case, but today's Thursday, so let's
Respect.
be real with it.
Go ahead.
So if today was your last Thursday,
yeah,
and you looked ahead until next week, and you knew Thursday was the end,
yeah,
what would you do differently in the next week?
The only thing I would 100% still do is watch the New York Jets game this Sunday. That is 100%.
Yeah.
What would I mean, I would walk out of this room right now and go spend every minute with those 11 people, right? My parents, my kids, my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, Brandon Warnicki, my best friend, you know, like, not super complicated, you know, pretty simple.
So
that's not true, I'm lying. I would do that, and I would call D-Rock and tell him to come over, and I would try to produce a piece of, I'd be like, I would definitely try to produce a piece of content that got 1 quadrillion views of like my last manifesto. I'd be like, listen, this is it, like fuck, like, it's like, it really makes no sense. I had so much more to give, so let me try to take that 50 years and put it into the next 15 minutes.
And the reason I ask that is because I feel like that's an amazing mental exercise.
I do it every day.
You do it every day?
I do it every day.
But then if that's the case, then why don't you just go and spend the rest of your time with your kids? And your wife and your...
Because you can trick yourself tremendously, but the truth is you can never get to the complete reality of something because there's a part of your brain and soul that's saying, no, you're actually gonna be alive tomorrow. Like, you know, like the answer is because it would be boring. Like it's a very interesting thing, right? Like it's really super interesting because my kids need to go to school tomorrow because my wife doesn't want me in the house all day. Like it's kind of like this funny thing, right? Like because if you're not actually dying on Thursday, well then you can only live in the reality of the situation. This is the thing I spend all my time with all my executives and all my homies. Like you can talk about theory all you want. Let's fucking execute in reality. Like something's subjective and something's not. Here's what's subjective. If people like this next 30 minutes, here's what's not subjective. It was 30 minutes. And like I trade on what's black and white and I accept what's gray.
I'm just having a little think about that.
Please, please.
It's such a hard, I've had 2 extremes on my podcast. I've had someone say, I want to live to 100,
yes.
And I plan to live to 100,
yes.
And I've had someone else say, I don't know if I'll be there at 100, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, therefore today what I'm doing is based on that. And I don't think either is right or wrong.
Yeah, but I think the first person's telling the truth more. I mean, to your point, and I don't want to call that person out, it's just awfully hard for anybody to truly act. You have people who are diagnosed with terminal disease, are told that they have 30 days to live and don't do the things that we all say we're gonna do because they still have hope. Like, you know, like, I don't know, like, it's just a very fascinating conversation.
Yeah. No, definitely, man. I think we could talk for 2 hours about it. So we'll.
Yeah, you know, you're making a very smart, creative decision right now. I could stick on this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, why people do what they do, how do they do it, you know, what are the triggers, how do they even get to the point where they think about this? How many people don't even think about this, who thinks about it all the time?
Yeah.
Why did I spend my ages 8 to 16 having a recurring nightmare every 3 days that my family had a reunion in Russia and the plane would crash? Why?
Is that real?
That's real. I'm trying to give you some new info.
Yeah.
Why? What was the logic between the 3 members, and it was always 3 other members but me, that survived? Sometimes my Aunt Vaya, sometimes my Uncle Misha, sometimes my dad, sometimes my mom. Like, that's just fascinating to me. Like, the brain, the operating system of us is just incredible.
It's true.
But I've always had a very weird and intimate relationship with, I mean, I talk about death a lot.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where, right, Seth? Yeah, it's to the, I talk about death a lot by like common standards.
You sound like my mom, man.
And I hope she's 1,000 because I'm like
She
freaked
does
out.
it every day.
Good, I like that because, how old is she?
Almost 60.
Good, good. Because like one of the things that definitely freaks me out about talking about death all the time is like, oh, that must mean I'm gonna go early. Like, you know, like, you know.
No, it's a kind of a depressing thing to talk about, but it's real life as well. So you.
It's a driver. It's an engine for me. I do think about it. I'm sure you saw the clip, or maybe you didn't. But like when somebody rolled up on me, you're gonna die, right? Like I believe in that. And like, so do I think that like if you told me tomorrow it's a week away, would I do normal stuff? Of course not. I would definitely like go to Vegas and like spend time with my family, or like jump off a bridge, or like da 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 da. But like the reality is, we are all living in the reality of what we believe is happening.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Kind of taking that one step further, I'm just thinking about mindset here. You've talked a lot about depression recently.
Yeah.
Or you've touched on it.
I've touched on it. Yeah, I've touched on it.
You've talked about the need for us to talk about that in our space,
yes.
Whether that's startup world, tech world,
yes.
business, whatever you want to call it. Let's touch on that for a minute.
Let's.
So, the reason I was having to think about this last night, and you know, first of all, maybe let's just set the tone for someone who hasn't heard you talk about that first.
Let's do that.
What is your take on the current problem we have in the entrepreneurial space anyway, where people aren't ready for the reality of entrepreneurship? My problem is that there's an awful lot of attention on Instagram and other social networks, and 99% of the messaging is about watches and you know, pretty girls on swan balloons in the pool, and champagne popping, and private jets, and elaborate vacations and trips with your girls, and you know, that's highlight reel.
The highlight reel, man, and it's just so not even remotely close to the truth. The truth is, almost everybody's gonna fail. Almost everybody, and it's super hard. The pressure is real, and there has been some underlining suicide and depression in our space that is never alluded to at all. It's just not something we talk about. And I had a friend who committed suicide who was part of the Las Vegas tech scene, and that was the first time it kind of like, I knew it was happening. I knew there was people that were bullshitting, faking the funk, drinking too much, doing stuff, you know, the lightweight signs.
Yeah, but you're not sure if it's going over the edge, and that's the.
I was, you know, when you don't see, you know, until you see something, you don't know. And I didn't know him intimately. I knew in this space. I'd see some entrepreneurs in 2009, 10, 11, and I would think that they were like doing the cliche signs of trying to release stress. Now you have on top of that a lot of the whole, like what I would call party promoting type. Like, entrepreneurship's cool. Like rappers and models and athletes and club promoters think I'm cool. That's the crazy. I was about to say stupidest. That is literally the craziest thing that has happened in my life. So I understand why it's happening, but unfortunately most people are not built out for true entrepreneurship. And I think they think that they have to do it or they should do it, and that makes me sad because they could have made a lot of money or been very happy doing something else.
And I've heard you use a great example. If you were the 7th or 8th or 15th of Uber, Snapchat, Facebook, etc.,
Google.
You'd be a lot better off in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of kids who I know are great consultants, could have went to Bain, then could have been number 39 at Airbnb, who would have just crushed it.
Yeah.
Instead, they started 2 lousy startups, right?
Yeah.
They got humiliated internally. Their family makes fun of them because he or she didn't live up to their mom and dad's careers.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to handle it because they've had it easy because they're good students.
Yeah.
And that was the game they played their whole lives. And they go into a bad place.
Yeah. And just taking that one step further, so I completely agree with you on that. At the same time, the more people I've interviewed in this scenario, the more I've heard the same message, which is entrepreneurship to most people that I would say have been successful, quote unquote, is being relentless and continuing to go.
Do you know the only way that you can be relentless is if you love it?
Yeah.
You can only do it from love, not fear.
Yeah.
You can't be relentless when you're losing over and over and you know it in your heart this is not you, and the reason you're doing it is you're ashamed or you want to persevere or not have the scarlet letter. You'll break.
Yeah.
The reason entrepreneurs that are successful talk about relentlessness is because they can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Do you know that I would die if you told me? I would not wait all the way to next Thursday and die by Tuesday if you told me I had to go work somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.